Hello and welcome to the Book Nook. Let's not even mention the hair today, okay guys, because I don't know what's going on and if I obsess about it too much I may have a little mini cry. So let's not even mention the hair today, okay? Okay. So today I'm going to do the bookseller... why can't I say this tag? Every time I go to read this tag I go to call it the bookseller something or other and it's not. It's the reading habits tag. There we go. The reading habits tag. So the reading habits tag is a list of 11 questions and then you tag some people, so technically it's 12, but I'm just going to do the 11 because it's 11. I don't know. Right. So the first one is, do you have a certain place at home for reading? Yes, you are in it. You are here in my special reading place, the Book Nook. I say that, I do tend to read mostly here. See, the thing is, because of my job, I'm at work, 9 till 5:30. I don't tend to read much in the morning at all. I try and read some of something on my break. Usually I've got sort of like a poetry collection or maybe a short story collection that I read at work, or like a non-fiction one like Sapiens stays in my locker and I try and read a bit of that on my breaks, because I don't want to sort of get into a book too much on my break and then be disappointed when I have to stop, which will lead me on to another question in a minute. So I read a bit in work, but mainly of an evening I will read here on the sofa downstairs or in bed. So really, I do have a particular reading place, a certain place at home for reading, and it's mainly here, but I do kind of scatter myself all around the house a little bit, because it's just where's convenient at the time. If there's somebody upstairs being noisy, I'll read downstairs. If there's somebody watching something on the TV downstairs, I'll read up here. So yeah, a couple of places, but mainly the Book Nook. Hence why it's called the Book Nook and hence why I record here, because I've got all my books here. This is where I sit. Even if I'm not reading, I at least sit here and just sort of soak up the bookness and have a cup of tea and listen to a podcast here and just soak up the bookishness. So yeah, the Book Nook is my certain place for reading at home. Question 2, bookmark or random piece of paper? Well, so I have this mug here. I'm sure most book readers have one like this, but this is mine. You might have one like this, but this is mine. A mug full of bookmarks and my Edinburgh and Pride wristbands and a hairband and, ooh, some polos. Been looking for them. So I have, a load of various bookmarks in here. I tend to use, we get a lot of sort of free bookmarks at work. Sort of publishers or events are always sort of sending us a stack of bookmarks and I'll always sort of pinch one of them and use them for whatever I'm reading. Mainly I do try and use a bookmark rather than a piece of paper. Whether it's like an official bookmark, like a nice little fringy leather one. I tend not to use these so much. I know it sounds silly, but I'm like scared of losing these or bashing bookmarks, so I tend not to use sort of proper fancy leather ones unless it's a hardback book that I'm mainly only reading at home, in which case I use this because it doesn't really leave the house. What else have we got here? My Brother is a Superhero. Some of them are a bit too wide sometimes. Like I find with these ones they're too, I don't know, the proportion of bookmark to book has to be right. So I find some of these a bit too wide, and then we've got like the North Water. We've got some at the moment for the Man Booker International 2017. I've got a few of these and I use these because these are perfectly proportioned. Perfectly proportioned bookmarks, I think. I like this one. The Bailey's Prize one. Props Bailey's. I like putting them in books like this and then they look like they've got little crowns. I do tend to use bookmarks rather than a piece of paper. If it's a piece of paper, if I can rip a piece of paper and it's a straight line, then I'll use that, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I need a bookmark, and I'll rip a piece of paper and it rips diagonally across and I'm like, nope, can't use that because it's not the right proportions for a bookmark, it's a weird shape, so I can't just use random pieces of paper. When I first get a book, if I absolutely cannot wait to start reading it, I usually use the receipt to start with, but then the problem with using that is I will be tidying up and I'll go, oh, there's a receipt there, the book's fine, I'm enjoying the book, I don't need the receipt anymore, yoink, oh, don't know what page it was in. Tends to be a bookmark, then it's less likely that I'll think, oh, is there something important written on that piece of paper, or can that piece of paper actually go in the bin, and I'll just pull it out and not think. So I tend to go with something that is vaguely recognisable as a bookmark rather than just a scrap of paper or a bit of paper. So, yeah. Question 3, can you just stop reading, or do you have to stop after a chapter or a certain amount of pages? I definitely have to stop at certain points. I cannot just stop reading. So the first bit of the question, no, I cannot just stop reading. I struggle with books that don't have chapters, or there are a few books that I've read recently that don't, not only do they not have chapters, but they don't even really have paragraphs, and they don't have any kind of natural break point. And when I'm in bed and I'm like, oh, I really need to go to sleep, I'm really tired, but I have to stop at an appropriate breaking point that makes sense. I not panic. I'm not sitting in bed going, I can't stop reading, I can't stop reading. I do kind of do that a little bit. Sorry for the noise there, that got a bit excitable. Whew. But I do struggle with those, so I definitely, end of a chapter is perfect. No, let's go through it in order. End of a part is perfect. So if I'm reading a book and I've got like 2 chapters left to the end of a part and I've got time, I will read to the end of the part. Because I will get really annoyed that, oh, I only had 1 chapter or 2 chapters left before the end of a part of the book. So, part of a book, then chapters, can end on a chapter, that's fine. Then, just natural breaking points. You often, in books, not a paragraph, you will actually get there's an empty line there, we're going to a new place or a new person or something, that is a place that I can stop as well. Yeah, so that would be in order where I have to read to. If I absolutely have to stop reading, I really don't like it. I really feel uncomfortable. I genuinely do. I will read right up to like the last minute before I have to get off the bus or a train or whatever, just so that I can get to some kind of natural stopping place. I will risk missing my bus stop to get to a natural stopping place. Is that really bad? Is that really sad? I feel like that's quite bad. Oh well, it's what I do. I can't just leave it hanging. I can't. It's really uncomfortable. I can't do it. I don't know why. But no, I can't just stop reading. It freaks me out a little bit because I can't stop reading like mid-thought. Yeah, definitely need some kind of stopping place. Part of a book, chapter, natural stopping place. Then end of a paragraph if I absolutely have to. So yeah, that's question 3. Question 4, do you eat or drink while reading? No, I just can't do it. Like, I physically can't do it. I don't have very big hands, okay? These are not very big hands, and I have this weird thing with my fingers where the knuckles all go like that, and this finger I broke and dislocated when I was younger, so it kind of, if I make a fist, I'll show you, it kind of lies down funny. So I can't, some people can sort of hold a book almost like that in there. Oh, this is some people, I can't do that because I don't have much strength in this little finger, so I can't sort of keep a book open with my thumb and my little finger in one hand and go eating or drinking with the other. And my thumb is not thick enough that if I just put my thumb in the spine of a book, it keeps it open. So physically, I find it difficult. When it comes to sort of drinking, if it's like a book that folds flat or something like that, I can sometimes maybe take a sip of drink, but I tend to get a bit, I mean, I'm as I'm doing this, I'm trying to find my cup of tea to try and take a sip doing this to demonstrate how bad in general I am at multitasking. I'm a woman, but I can't multitask very well in terms of, so no, I can't eat or drink while I'm reading. Like my mum can, she will fold a book flat on the table in front of a bowl of cereal and be eating. I just can't do that. I find it difficult to get food in my mouth and words in my eyes as well. I just can't do it, so no. Drinking just about, food, no. Question 5, multitasking, music or TV while reading? No, can't do it. Cannot do it. I used to be able to. When I was younger, I could read pretty much anywhere. Wouldn't matter what was going on. Now, I cannot read unless it's like a very specific set of circumstances, which is really frustrating. For the most part, there will be some times where, oh, what have I just been doing for the last half an hour? I've been reading and you know, there's something going on. But for the most part, TV is an absolute no-no. I cannot compartmentalise between what's going on there and what's going on here. I just cannot do it. If I'm even in the same room as a TV show that I hate, actually hate is the wrong thing, because if I hate a TV show, I'm naturally going to engage with it more because I'm so angry. But if it's a TV show that I'm not even watching, like if I'm at home and my mum and dad have got something on the television and I just can't be bothered to move off the sofa, I try and read a book and I can't. I just cannot concentrate. I end up just going, what's going on? And I'm not even watching it. It's ridiculous. I cannot do it with TV. And with music, I can do it with some kinds of music, but it has to be music without words in it. Bit of classical music, bit of ambient music, things like that, I can cope with at a low volume, usually 9, frustratingly enough, because, as I say, with volumes and remotes and things, it has to be even numbers. But unless it's quite calming music without any words or too much going on, I can't concentrate. If it's songs that I know too well, I start singing along and get completely sidetracked. If it's songs that I don't know well enough, like I can't listen to an album or something for the first time while I'm reading, because then I'm listening to the album for the first time instead of reading. I just can't do it. So I'm not very good at multitasking when it comes to reading. I have to give my attention, and that's what I love about it. I do get frustrated sometimes, don't get me wrong. I get very frustrated that I can't read with more distractions going on. Because, like I say, I used to be able to when I was younger. So stuff could be going on and it would be my escape. I could be, you know, in town or, I don't know, somewhere really busy, and I could escape to a book and I'd be in my own little world. Whereas now, I do have to kind of physically move myself to somewhere where I can read comfortably and really engage. Has to be a specific set of circumstances. I didn't realise I was quite so fussy a reader until I was doing this video, and I've not looked at my hair for like a full 5 minutes and it shows. So yeah, can't do music, definitely can't do TV. Question 6, one book at a time or several at once? Again, this is a shift and a change in how I read. When I was in school, I used to be able to read like 4 or 5 books at a time, different books. Obviously, when I say that, I'm assuming people realise that I don't mean 5 different books, 5 different books, 5 different books. Right, so when I was younger, and I used to read lots of books, I would get, mainly adults, but even some kids going, oh, well, don't you get confused what's happening in one book? I'm like, no, because different things happen in different books. That's kind of how books work. That's the point of books. It's like, no, I don't get confused between one book that's a fantasy series that has some kid learning to sail ships that fly through the air, and another book that has some cat that breathes fire. No, the cat doesn't breathe fire, the cat's magic, and what's that book called again? Fleabag and the Fire Cat. No, so I don't get confused between these books because different things happen in them. So nowadays, it's not that I have now started getting confused between books. It's more a case of wanting to see something through and getting so absorbed in one world. I think as I've grown up, and I'm really interested to see if it's the same for other people as well. Like when I was a kid, I could lose myself in multiple worlds at the same time. I don't know whether it's a capacity thing, whether it's while your brain is forming and while you're becoming you can soak up more stuff like a sponge, and then as you get older, the sponge itself shrinks and you've got less space to absorb stuff. But now I can only sort of lose myself in one world at a time. And again, sometimes that confuses me. Confuses me? I didn't even mean confuses me. I meant frustrates me. Sometimes that frustrates me. But for the most part, I think it makes me a slightly more engaged reader. But again, I don't know if that's something to do with like the capacity to do that and the ability to do that. When I was a kid, I could quite fully engage with all these books that I was reading at a time. You know, I used to read loads of books, write reviews for them, and then write little spin-offs for books. Whereas now, I can focus on one book at a time. I don't know, it's strange. Anyway, just getting a bit more philosophical and psychological as to the wherewithal of why I can or cannot read more than one book at a time. But, suffice to say, in answer to the question, I tend to go for one book at a time in terms of fiction, or just in terms of what type it is. I would go for one fiction at a time, but I can mix and match between like fiction, poetry, non-fiction, and things like that. But yeah, one at a time, please. I think this mug is bigger than my mouth. Well, obviously it's bigger than my mouth. You know what I mean. Question 7, reading at home or everywhere? Kind of addressed this, actually, in my question 1. Yeah. Mainly at home, but it depends, because, as I say, I have work and... Yeah, mainly at home. Mainly at home. I do make sure I have a book with me whenever I go out, but if I'm going to somewhere, a lot of the time if it's only going to be like a short bus journey, again it comes back to the fear of sort of not finding a good place to stop reading and not getting too drawn in and getting pissed off that, oh, I've got to stop reading because I've got to go and see my friends. I will often listen to like a podcast on a short bus journey or train journey or something like that, rather than starting to read and get sort of locked in to a book. So it is mainly at home, but that's purely a sort of time constraint thing. When I've got, you know, my long lunch hour rather than my 2 split, I will take a book. I'm more likely to be able to read. But at the same time, I think if I had an office job or some kind of job that wasn't to do with books, my lunch break reading, I would read more on my lunch break, because that would be, right, work is nothing to do with books, so my lunch break is reading to escape that world of non-books. But because I work with books all day every day and I'm constantly talking about books and kind of shopping by eye, because I do that, my breaks are often like, right, I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to talk to whoever else is on break. You know, it's other stuff, eat, that's another thing. I'm going to do other stuff that isn't books on my break. So it does tend to be mainly at home that I read. Yes, it's the really long-winded way of saying yes, mainly at home. I'm doing really long-winded answers for all of these, aren't I? No idea how long this video is going to be. Who knows? Question 8, reading out loud or silently in your head? Silently in my head. when I was at uni, the course I was doing, part of it was writing poetry and performing poetry and stuff, so I would, as a reader of other people's poetry, I would tend to read poetry out loud, and I think poetry is one of the ones that something more is brought to it by reading it out loud. Hearing it or reading it out loud yourself, you discover new things about the language that's on the page. I'm not going to get into a whole page versus performance debate with poetry, because I think both have their merits and they're both very different things, but I think even a poem that is designed to be read from the page, you can learn something more about it by reading it out loud. So I will occasionally read some poetry out loud. Books tend to not read out loud. The only exception, as I have mentioned briefly recently, was The Essex Serpent, when I sat down to read that. And that was because the first page, the rhythm of that first page was so striking that as I was reading it silently in my head, I was like, hang on a minute, there's something going on here that I need to hear out loud. So I sat at my kitchen table and I read that out loud and was just like, whew, boy, this is a thing. And then was just like, okay. So fiction and non-fiction, to me, I wouldn't even really contemplate reading it out loud. I don't know why. That seems odd, because I'll watch non-fiction. I don't know. But fiction for me, no, is silently in my head. So yeah, no, silently in my head. Silently in my head. Question 9. Do you read ahead or even skip pages? No. No, absolutely not. I know somebody at work who does read the last page of books, and there was an article recently that was all about, you know, people who read the last pages of the books or something. I can't even remember the thrust of the article, but I just remember it coming out that she was like, see, I'm right to read the last page of the article. But no, I can't do it. I don't think I ever really have done either. I'm too scared of seeing something. I think the very few occasions that I have even just flicked through to sort of see how far I've gone ahead, I've accidentally read a word and been like, oh shit, so-and-so dies. Oh, right. So I'm so scared of sort of marring my experience of the text as a whole, even with inconsequential details, that I just don't do it. But no, I don't skip ahead. I don't understand why you would, personally. No, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Stop it. Why would you do that? Question 10. Breaking the spine or keeping it like new? Now, I am, when it comes to the condition of my books, very much an all or nothing gal. That's twice I've said all or nothing gal, and I don't know why I'm saying it, so I'm going to stop saying it. But I am quite all or nothing when it comes to my books. I will buy a new book, and I will keep it pristine. And I know that a lot of people say that the point of books is they are meant to be loved and look loved, but I love my books in a way that means taking care of them. So I think both are equally valid. I'm never going to sort of... No, I do tell people off for ruining books, but if that's how you read and how you love your books, and that's your aesthetic on the bookshelf, and that's what, then fine, like, fair play to you. I personally, when I buy a new book, it stays as new as I can get it. But the minute something happens to it, if I put it in a bag as carefully as I can, but I'm walking around, and then when I get it out of my bag, something's happened to it, and it's got knocked in my bag or something like that, and it's got like a crease or a bend, or like the corners are dinked or the spines, I'm like, fine, cool, that one's done now. That one's done now. And I will take a bit less care of it. And I do like the aesthetic and the feel of a bashed book in your hands, which is why I have no problem buying second-hand books. I quite like a second-hand book. The only thing I don't like about second-hand books is proper spinal breakage. I love second-hand books, like the dog ears and the corners are scuffed and all of that, but when it's like proper spinal breakage, it makes it harder to read the book because the book wants to flip open. Anyway, apart from that, so that's where I'm definitely a no-no, is breaking the spine. Scuffed books, corners bashed, the spine itself sort of like dinked, and the top corners on the back, all of that, I like that in a well-loved book. As I say, I keep it pristine, but if it gets bashed, if I drop a book and it bounces and it hits right on the spinal corner and that corner is all squished, then in my head, actually, I've got to bash it up somewhere else, because otherwise it's just going to be a book with a bashed corner, and that's going to annoy me more, so I have to kind of even it up. But spinal breakage for me, I mean, on a human level, if you love someone, you don't break their back. I mean, come on. If you love somebody, you don't break their back, but you might, people get scuffed up through the course of love. I don't know, I'm trying to make a metaphor here of people as books, but if you love something, casual wear and tear, let's think of it from a corporate sort of buying and selling point of view. wear and tear, general wear and tear, that'll happen kind of thing. And when you love somebody, there's a bit of general wear and tear there. But you don't break their backs, do you? You don't break the back of someone you love. Oh, I love you so much, I'm going to snap your spine. No, you don't do that. So for me, breaking the spine, I do know some people who, like, the first thing they do when they get a new book is they will go, ooh. And when the spine makes that noise, so do I, and I have a little cry, because for me, breaking the spines is just a no-no. So, no. No. Mainly keeping it like new, not averse to a bit of bashing, break the spine and I will cry. There we go. Question 11, do you write in your books? No. No, I do not. So when I was a student, again, I was doing an English lit degree, and I would write in books then, but my problem would be that when it comes to, like, highlighting books, I'm really bad at highlighting. If I see, like, a relevant thing, it's usually, like, the whole page, and I just go highlighter overload. And I would do the same with notes as well. I would just sort of, like, underline whole passages. If I was writing notes in books, if it was things like, this bit's amazing, all of what I put in there would feel, to me, you know, looking back on it, if it was, you know, a book that I loved and I was leaving these notes for myself for when I reread a book or something like that, if I pick that book up again, anything that I've written in there is just going to feel limp and what? And it's not actually going to sum up what I felt when I read it the first time, if that's what the note's there for. So, I don't know, I just think that the impact of notes on books when you're rereading, for me, is more distracting. But having said that, when I pick up a second-hand copy of a book, I love looking at what notes people have written in there, and I think it's absolutely fascinating. So I think it's more interesting and for a reason, and when other people do it than when I do it, if that makes sense. So, no, I think the thing for me is I just don't really have much of a reason to write notes in books, and if ever I am trying to sort of keep track of something, if there's a particular passage that strikes me, I will usually just take a photo of it, or put in a little sticky note to come back to. So, no, writing notes in books, it's not like the spinal breakage thing, it's not a complete no-no, because, as I say, when I buy a second-hand book, I think it's really sweet when there's notes in there, and seeing what people have got from the text and seeing what they've underlined, and yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of ambivalent towards notes in books, but it's not something that I do. So, there, that answers that one. Question 12, who do I tag? To be honest with you, in the spirit of the fact that I have not been tagged in any of the tag videos that I've done, and I'm just inviting myself to the party, I'm just going to tag anybody that's watching this. So I'm just going to say, if you're watching this and you're a fellow booktuber, or a budding booktuber, or considering becoming a booktuber, just do this tag, because I think it's quite interesting. It's, in talking about all this, I've realised things about my reading habits that I didn't necessarily realise before. And actually, it's been the kind of conversation that the whole time I've been doing, I have very rarely looked at the screen on the side. So it's, I think, you know, if you're thinking about doing it, it's a really good one to do, to practice not looking at the screen, because you just actually think about your reading habits and why you do things. I don't know, that's probably not really the point of the tag, and this video is probably going to be far too long, but hey, I just had a panic that it wasn't recording. So yeah, I'm just going to tag everyone. Every damn one of you. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I feel like whenever I do tag videos, or ones that aren't hauls, I feel like I sort of talk quicker. I don't know whether I do. Was that good for you? So yeah, that is the reading habits tag. There we go. Actually said it right first time. The reading habits tag. So I'm tagging every one of you, so go do. As you were. Also today I am editing WExCast episode 2. You may remember in my last video I briefly mentioned it, that I have started up with the guys at Waterstones Exeter, where I work, a new podcast, and we've done one episode so far, which was talking about the books of the month for May, the books of the month that the company pick, and other ones that we're excited about. And this one that I have done, and I'm currently editing, is a chat with some booksellers about what they're reading, a little catch-up of other books that are coming out this month, and some events that we've got going on in our store. So if you fancy checking that out, I will actually remember to put the link to that down below here, because I think I forgot last time. So that'd be great if you fancy checking that out, and if you're local to Exeter, check that one out, because that just gives you a taste of what we're doing in store. So yeah, that's the reading habits tag and a little bit of admin at the end here. I'm going to go have another cup of tea and record my May haul part 1. Who knows which video you'll get first if I end up recording and re-editing and uploading. I just run out of steam sometimes halfway through talking, which you wouldn't believe because I do it a lot. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the reading habits tag. Go do it yourself, whether you're a booktuber or not. I think it's a really interesting series of questions to delve into with your own sort of reading habits then versus now. I'm not going to start it all over again, but go do it. I think it's really interesting. So I will see you next time for whatever video goes up next. I'm still getting to grips with the whole planning thing, and my work pattern is a bit all over the place for a little while, so I will get better at planning and having more regular videos, hopefully. But for now, have a lovely rest of your Thursday and have a good weekend. Oh, I've said Thursday, so if this one doesn't go up on Thursday, it's going to look really weird. But anyway, have a good rest of your day, whatever day it is, and I will see you next time. Bye!